In this video, I'm gonna show you how to grow a SaaS company, including all the stuff I've learned from growing Exploding Topics from zero to a multi-million-dollar SaaS company. I actually never thought I'd be making this video because I actually launched another SaaS, I wouldn't call it company, SaaS product in 2017 called YoRocket that ultimately failed. And I learned some stuff from that project that I applied to Exploding Topics. But for the most part, my lesson from that project was don't get into SaaS. Like, I'm not a developer, I don't have a lot of technical expertise. But when I came across sort of a beta version of Exploding Topics that my co-founder Josh was building, I decided to partner up with him, and then we rebranded it and relaunched it as Exploding Topics later. And since then, I've learned a ton about growing a SaaS company, including many mistakes, lessons learned, things that worked really well, growth hacks, and I'm gonna share everything about that in this video. So let's just jump right in with the first thing that has made the biggest difference in terms of growth, which is product-led growth. So you probably heard of product-led growth. It's a fancy term for basically having a piece of your product or a version of your product freely available. That's really what Exploding Topics was in the early days. We didn't monetize until about 10 months after launching. So the entire project was product-led growth because I wasn't even sure how to monetize Exploding Topics. So we just basically put everything out there for free. And that decision, if you can even call it that, because it was just the only thing to do was to put it out there for free, ended up being a game changer for us in terms of getting early traction. And as you know, if you start a SaaS company, it's really hard to get early traction because SEO takes time. You might not have a budget for Facebook ads. Even influencer marketing takes time. Like, everything just takes time. But if you have something cool that you put out there and it's freely available, it can spread on its own. Like, look at ChatGPT, right? Like, that went from 0 to 100 million users in a couple months because it was just something everyone could just use, as opposed to needing to sign up for a trial or enter your credit card information. People could just test it out and realized early on it was really cool. Now, not to say Exploding Topics is anything like ChatGPT, that's a game-changing technology, but it was cool and interesting enough to get us early traction. In fact, when we launched on Product Hunt, we were #1 product of the month when we launched, which was huge. Tens of thousands of visitors, tons of email signups, and was great with early traction. And if we just had the same thing, but you had to log in or create an account, it wouldn't have done as well. It was the fact that it was just readily available. So if you have a SaaS product, think of how you could take all of it or some of it and just make that your homepage on your website. That is just a great way to get early traction and was a huge game changer for us. In fact, we still basically have that. Now, we hide our best trends for pro members and we blur it out on the homepage so you can't see that stuff, but the basic functionality is there that anyone can try, and that still drives tens of thousands of visitors per month. The second thing that's made a huge difference in terms of growth has been a weekly newsletter, which I had a newsletter with Backlinko, but it wasn't on any regular cadence. It was kind of like whenever I published a blog post or we did a launch or I just kind of had something to say, I would just write a newsletter and send it out. With Exploding Topics, I really wanted to try like a weekly branded newsletter. And I call it a branded newsletters because these are newsletters that come at a regular cadence. They have the same format and the same structure. So think of like Morning Brew or something like that. The structure is essentially the same every single time you get a newsletter, and I wanted to replicate that, but do it on a weekly basis. So we launched Exploding Topics Tuesday, and we didn't have a huge subscriber base starting out. Like, basically all of it was from that Product Hunt launch. But since then, we've grown to almost 90,000 subscribers. I should probably make a video about that, actually. We have a 50% open rate on that newsletter. And it's because the content's good, but more importantly, the format is really consistent. This branded newsletter format, you know what you're gonna get, but you don't know exactly how it is. I kind of compare it to Shark Tank, right? That show's super popular because the format is the same every single time. Like, a startup's gonna go through the door, they're gonna pitch the sharks, Mr. Wonderful is gonna say something snarky, and that's pretty much every episode. But you don't know all the variables. You don't know what startup's gonna come in. You don't know what deal they're gonna do. It's the same thing with a branded newsletter. The format's the same, but the content's different every time. So in our case, we just share 4 interesting trends that we found that week and some insight analysis around each trend. It's pretty simple. It takes almost no time to put together, and it's been a huge growth driver for us for 2 reasons. First of all, just being top of mind. It's almost like running retargeting ads for free. Instead of running retargeting ads, just every week someone gets a reminder that you exist, and we have a little call to action to sign up for a paid SaaS in every newsletter. The other benefit was once you have a newsletter, you have an email list. And then when you launch something new, like a new SaaS product or a new feature, you have a huge list of people that are used to opening your emails that are there. And I'll go over more detail about how we do product launches at Exploding Topics. But yeah, that's been huge for us because if you create something new, a new feature, how are you gonna get the word out? Yeah, you can share it on social media, but very few people are gonna really see it, versus a newsletter where thousands of people can read it, open it, and they're used to seeing your stuff. And because you provided so much value every single week over the course of months or even years, your subscribers are sort of accepting that once in a while you're gonna pitch them. At Exploding Topics, we do like 2 to 3 launches a year, and that's it, to keep the list fresh, and the rest is just pretty much pure value. So the third thing that made a huge difference for us were product launches to the email list. And this is something I kind of adapted from Backlinko and the whole course launch model to Exploding Topics. So most online course businesses have this launch model where you open up enrollment for a few days and then people sign up and then you close it. And that worked really well at Backlinko. And I was wondering if we kind of do the same thing with Exploding Topics. Now, obviously it doesn't make sense with a SaaS company to like only let people sign up during a launch, but I was thinking, what if you use the same model where you have the anticipation before the launch, you do the launch, and then you have some sort of deadline? Would that also work with SaaS? I'd never really seen it, but I thought it was worth a try. So when we first launched like a paid version of the product, we did this. It was the same thing. Like before we launched, we did a pre-launch is what it's called, is where you say, hey, we have this new thing coming out and we're solving this problem that you might have. And then when you launch, you're like, hey, we're launching. And then there's a limited time element of some kind, and then you send like a final reminder the day of. That launch got us from 0 to 10K MRR in a month. And then from there, we've done them regularly. And I would say looking back like at all our MRR, I would say like 25% come from launches. Even though we've only done maybe like 5 or 6 since we started the company. The rest is just people signing up. But that's huge. Like I think that's 25% of people that are pushed off the fence. That's what you're basically doing with the launch. You have people that are on your list already, they know who you are, they probably considered your product because you're pitching it subtly in every newsletter, but the launch gets them off the fence, and that can be a huge difference for us. So in terms of how we structure them, we use a very simple 3 email structure where before the launch, we either include it in the newsletter or have a separate email that's like a pre-launch where we discuss what the feature is, what's coming out, why it's important, how it can help you. Then we do the launch, we're like, it's here. We have the new thing, it's live, you can try it out. We subtly mention that there's some sort of scarcity, either in the sense we're gonna raise our pricing, which we've done a couple times already, or there's a limited time bonus, or recently we added a new plan and we gave everyone a free upgrade, but if you signed up now, you got that upgrade before we rolled it out to everybody. And then the last email is just very simple. It's like 5 lines. It's like, basically, here's your last chance to do it. If you want to, great. If not, we'll go back to the newsletter schedule next week. That way people aren't unsubscribing like crazy. And that works really well. It's really simple. I'm sure if we did some sort of complicated, if they open it, send them this email and click on this, but we just send 3 emails to everybody and it seems to work really well. So the next thing that really made the biggest difference in terms of new MRR was shipping features faster. And this is something that we've really only ramped up over the last 4 or 5 months and already seen a huge difference in terms of trial conversion rate, churn, and all the other important metrics that come to running a SaaS company. So why is this like such a big deal and why do we struggle with it for so long? Well, like most SaaS companies, we had this laundry list of improvements, do this, we'll have this, they can do that. The problem is it's a lot easier to like write something down than to actually code it and ship it. We didn't have really the manpower. We had my co-founder Josh coding mostly everything, and we had one guy in Upwork that was doing a decent job. And that was basically the entire like tech operation. And the rest of the staff were marketing people and support staff. Now we've ramped up and basically found more developers that are helping us, and we're shipping features super fast. Obviously there's still a backlog, but I'm surprised at how quickly you can measure the impact of a feature. We launched 2 features recently. One was called Trending Startups, which was a list of trending startups along with data, like how much funding they have, how many employees. And then we have a Trending Products feature, which is physical products along with data like Amazon sales, average pricing, things like that. And those are 2 pretty big features that would have taken us 3 months each. And now we launch each of them in like 3 weeks. It's night and day. And since we launched both of them, especially together, I think they made a big difference. We've seen churn go down by almost half over the last few months, and MRR is just growing really quickly. Even though it was a little flat in the beginning of the year, it's really picked up. And I think it's really from shipping features faster. And for us, when we prioritize what to work on, we're really prioritizing what we can ship faster. Now, over the long term, that's maybe not a good strategy because you might have like a game-changing feature that just is gonna take months to work on and no one's gonna see it until it's launched. I get that, but for now, we're just shipping as many features as possible. And we do have one big feature in the pipeline, which is a new and improved trend search. We already have trend search, but we wanna make it a lot better. But that's gonna be like 2 months of basically not shipping anything, which right now we're seeing such huge results from shipping on a regular basis that it doesn't make sense to pause shipping just to work on something big. I can see like both sides of the argument, but once you have enough users and you have some users, it's really just about shipping improvements for them and seeing how they react. You also get a lot more feedback from people because you're shipping something new, they notice, and then they're more likely to tell you like, oh, I like this thing, or I didn't like this thing, or I wish it had that, as opposed to just keeping your website the same for 3 months. You launch something new, 3 months, you launch another feature, 3 months, you launch another feature. It's not even enough of a cadence for people to notice or to realize the web app is still being worked on and it's still something that's dynamic and they can give their input on. So last but not least, SEO has been absolutely huge for Exploding Topics. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we really focused on that product-led growth. We went from, getting like 20,000 visitors a month pretty early on, partially from the product hunt launch, which obviously it went from like 20,000 down to like 5, but it was 5,000 visitors that were coming just to visit the site. We didn't have really any content. We weren't doing any link building. We weren't really writing anything. It was just the web app was useful enough for people to visit it, which is great because as you know, SEO can take 3 to 4 months for you to see some results. And in our case, once we started ramping up SEO, everything changed. Like we went from 0 to 400,000 visitors in a couple of years, which is crazy. Even it surprises me. Like I'm like head of SEO basically at Exploding Topics. I'm planning the topics, I'm finding writers, I'm managing all the content that's coming in. And even I was surprised at how fast it grew. I think it's because I took the backlinko model, which was in a super competitive space, the online marketing space. I was competing against other people who knew about SEO, and I applied it to Exploding Topics. It just took off. It was a lot easier. So the main thing we did in the early days is focus on middle and top of the funnel content, software trends, technology trends, business trends, things that people were searching for, kind of what we help with, but not exactly. Or, we realized a lot of our customers were VCs and investors, so we created these startup list posts that were like fintech startups, SaaS startups, pretty top of the funnel. Like those people are searching for kind of what we do, but not directly. Recently, we've been transitioning to more bottom of the funnel stuff, and I kind of wish we did it earlier actually. Bottom of the funnel is where you're just like, someone searching for literally what you do, like trend spotting software, like boom, like that's literally what we do. Now, not many people are gonna be searching for this stuff, but it's your target customer. So it makes sense to have a presence on the first page for these keywords. So we scaled pretty quickly. We went from like 0 to probably 100 of these over the last 6 months, just finding different angles for bottom of the funnel content where people are in buying mode. If you're in SaaS, people are either searching for like your category, your software category, the problem you solve, or a competitor or alternative. If you can nail all 4 of those, you're gonna have easily like 50 or 100 or 200 bottom of the funnel content pieces that you can write. If you look at your Google Analytics, you'll probably notice the conversion on those is insane. Now, the raw number of conversions might be a bit low because not many people search for them, and that's why you have to produce so many of these. That's actually been a game changer in terms of the number of trials that we get per month. So our traffic has gone up by, let's say, 25% over the last 6 months or something like that, but our trials have more than doubled. And the reason for that is because traffic's going up, but it's really because these people are landing on these bottom of the funnel posts that we just didn't even have before. Like we just didn't exist. It's like when you look at Google Analytics over a time frame and you see the page and it's like that infinity sign, a bunch of them are like that because we just published them. So that got us a presence for these keywords that people are searching for. Maybe not exactly what we sell in all cases, but very similar, basically the category or the problem that we solve. And that's pretty much it. Those are the things that made the biggest difference. Obviously, I've been running this startup for like 3 years now, tons of things that we've done, but those are the things that made the biggest difference in terms of MRR, which is obviously the most important thing. So that's about it. To recap, the most important things you can do to grow your SaaS company from my experience of growing one is, first of all, have a piece of your software or your entire software available for people to try. Now, it can be a very limited version. It can be one feature that you pull out, but that's gonna help you stand out, especially in the early days where it takes time to get traction with other channels. The next thing is consider a weekly newsletter. Now, it is tricky because you do have to commit to it. Like, it doesn't work if you just do it every now and again. The secret sauce is that every week at the same time with the same format. It's been huge for us, and it's something that we are still building all the time and focusing on how we can get more value from the email list. How can we grow the email list? How can we provide more value to the email list? And it's something that a lot of SaaS companies sleep on because they're very focused on like getting that trial right away, getting that demo right away. A lot of people that reach out to us for demos, especially enterprise, they tell us they've been on the email list for like 3 months. It just keeps us top of mind. And when they're ready to buy something or they're like, oh, we're gonna start something new, And we need trends, exploring topics, like we're top of mind, which is huge. Like I said, it's like free retargeting. Then the lesson that I learned, it's kind of obvious, but like shipping features faster. Even now we're thinking, how can we ship features faster? The speed of like going from this improvement seems like something we should do to actually pushing it live has been the biggest difference maker for us so far this year in terms of MRR. Now we've done other stuff, traffic has grown, we did a launch. Overall, the thing that's made the biggest difference is launching these really like game-changing features as quickly as possible. And the secret is really just getting more really good developers working on this stuff. And lastly, SEO has been huge for us. I mean, we're getting 400,000 visitors a month, which is just crazy. Actually, most of it, even now, is still top of the funnel, but it was all top of the funnel or middle of the funnel before. Now we're mixing in this bottom of the funnel stuff, and I'm seeing a huge uptick in the number of trials. We're getting like 600 trials a month now. And before, we were getting like 250. The biggest difference is, yeah, traffic's gone up, and that, of course, will proportionally increase the number of trials you get. But that bottom of the funnel stuff has made a huge difference. They convert like crazy, and it makes total sense. Like that person searching for the problem you solve, they're ready to go, like they're ready to sign up, as opposed to someone who's like problem aware and all that B school stuff. That's actually where the newsletter comes into play, because instead of being like trying to convert that person who's just like, I'm looking for startups to invest in, or I just want trends in the software world or fintech trends or whatever, getting that person to like sign up right away for your product is probably not gonna happen. But if you can get them on the newsletter and then drip value over the course of weeks and weeks and weeks, when they're ready, they're more likely to sign up. So if you're doing a lot of the top of the funnel stuff and not including the newsletter, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. That's the bridge that gets you from like top of the funnel visitor to actually converting down the road. Now I'd like to hear from you. Do you have a SaaS company? Do you want to start a SaaS company? If so, what has worked best for you? I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.